Playing Division I college football seemed like a long shot for the number 2 receiver on the MT Top 40, who would politely decline offers from other schools so that he could walk on at the University of Montana. 5 years later, he would leave as the program's all-time best receiver, eventually landing in the Pro Bowl in the National Football League. Number 2 at the Look at the Wideouts is former Havre High standout Mark Mariani.
The memories that I have with that kid are some of the best that I'll ever have in my life. And I still think back, you know, all the highlights throughout his career, and there's so many. I mean, the impact that he had on so many different sports, so many different games, from high school to college and the NFL, and a guy that was counted out for his size a lot at every level that he played at and continued to shine. I mean, pretty impressive.
Mark Mariani did it all at Havre High, earning 10 varsity letters between football, basketball, and tennis, while winning the State A doubles championship with Gary Wagner. But it was on the gridiron he would vault into the MHSA and Class A record books, particularly after a stellar senior season saw him catch 48 passes for 1,237 yards and 16 touchdowns. Those stats are per Class A stat guru Brian Reed. The Montana High School Association lists Mariani number 3 in single-season receiving yards, tied for 3rd with former teammate Kota Cheetah with the 16 touchdowns. Those ranked 2nd in Class A history per Reed, and Mariani's also top 8 for both game and season yards per catch.
It's kind of funny, you go back and you look at some of those the articles that were written in the Havre Daily, and it'll be like, Wagner to Mariani for an 83-yard touchdown, but it was literally a 2-step drop, and I'd throw a hitch, he'd catch a 6-yard pass, make a couple moves, and he'd run for, 83 yards. And that was just the kind that we depended on him to do stuff like that. I mean, there was a reason why risk throwing a deep ball all the time when you can literally get the ball in this kid's hand as quick as you can, and you know something huge could happen. Those stats they're wild. And to think we literally only played 3 full games that year, the first 2 and then the state championship. Other than that, our team was so stacked that, I mean, at halftime it was like 56-0, and so Coach Purcell kind of called the dogs off, which is, as a competitor, we're like, oh, let's keep playing, but his stats could have, honest to God, they could have been double what they were.
Mariani would save his best for last, leading undefeated Havre to the 2004 State A championship game against Billings Central, recording 7 catches, 228 yards, and a pair of touchdowns in a 34-21 win over the Rams. Per Reed, Mariani would end his career with 69 catches, 1,638 yards, and 22 total touchdowns.
I mean, I get chills talking about it right now because it was unreal. The go-ahead touchdown towards the end after the controversial little play. I just remember the play call coming in and out, Mark breaking the huddle, and he just kind of looked at me. He was walking out of the huddle and looked at me for a hair longer, like, let's just take care of this. And probably was an all-right pass, but he made it look probably perfect. And yeah, he took it to the house, 85-yard touchdown to the go-ahead, and then the rest is history. And that, the first championship in, I think 40-some years, 41 years or something in Havre. That was pretty neat.
They had a real good quarterback too. Yeah, I think he played a lot of years at Carroll, and he was a very good player. And I do just remember him having a lot of good receivers, but definitely he was very talented. You don't ever forecast where they're going to go. Obviously, a very talented young man, and very fast, and they threw the ball really well back in that time period. They executed an offense very well with a lot of receivers. He was definitely one that was very good at the time. We played him twice his senior year in the state championship, and he caught a big one to really ice the game, and no one could catch him.
Was it the same things in high school that we ultimately saw with the Grizz? Was he doing the same types of things then? Oh
yeah, definitely. And so many of these kids mature so much as they hit that next level, and everything kicks in when they hit that 18-year-old. And we have there's probably kids out there today that you're thinking in no way, and then obviously they make a 10-year run in the NFL. So that's pretty awesome.
Mariani's college career became the success story heard around the nation at the FCS level. After walking on to the University of Montana, he sat out in 2005, played sparingly in 2006, and was utilized more in 2007, playing in 11 games, scoring his first career touchdown, and becoming the team's leading return man. But his junior year was the coming out party. Mariani hauled in 69 catches for 1,308 yards and 15 scores, while also returning 23 punts for 373 yards and a pair of touchdowns. He would garner All-American status while helping the Grizz to a national runner-up finish. As a senior, Mariani was full-on fan favorite. 80 catches, 1,479 yards, and 13 touchdowns at receiver. 32 punt returns for 507 yards and a touchdown, plus 199 yards and another score while returning kickoffs. Once again landing on the All-American list, while once again helping the Grizz to a runner-up finish in the FCS. Mariani would lead Montana as the school's all-time leading receiver with 3,018 yards, a mark that has since been broken by Jamal Jones, though Mariani still ranks second. His 29 career touchdown receptions remain atop the record books.
There's one moment that stands out in my mind. It was they were down at half to South Dakota, I believe it was. They were down, like 4 scores. And we're on the sideline, and they're updating the games as it's going along. And I'm hearing this. I'm like, there's no way these guys are going to lose. And then they come out at the end of half, or the start the second half. Mark takes a punt back for a touchdown, and then he catches a couple more for a touchdown. And it was fun for me to see because I knew what this kid could do. And right when he was redshirting, doesn't play, then finally in special teams and on the practice field, how kind of notices this guy who's beating everyone down and making all these tackles. Well, let's try him at a return. Well, he starts taking returns to the house, punt and kick returns. And then they said, well, this guy's pretty athletic. Let's put him at the receiver spot. And immediately, it's awesome.
The Tennessee Titans nabbed Mariani in the 7th round of the 2010 NFL Draft, and success quickly followed as a returner. He would total 1,530 kick return yards, finishing second in the National Football League as a rookie, while also scoring a pair of touchdowns. One came on a 98-yard kickoff return, the other an 87-yard punt return. Fans took notice and voted Mariani to the 2011 Pro Bowl, where he set records for kick returns with 9 and kick return yards with 326.
And then he called me. He's like, hey, there might be an opportunity that I can go to the Pro Bowl. And I'm thinking, no way. Then he calls me after he gets the call from his coach, and he's like, you're not going to believe it. And I knew exactly what it was. He's like, I'm going to Hawaii. I could not believe it. And but it was one of those things where, yeah, I couldn't believe it, but part of me expected that from this kid. I knew he would do something crazy because that's just the way Mark is, and he always does something spectacular. And yeah, the Pro Bowl, getting to meet, hang out with a lot of those guys down there, and then him setting the records in the Pro Bowl. Then we go back to Titan Stadium. He takes us for a visit in the locker rooms and in their facilities. And there's a picture of Mark that will be in the Titans Hall of Fame forever for the Pro Bowl selection and his stats. And I'm like, that doesn't happen. And it doesn't happen in a Pro Bowl. Those are the top-notch guys. And yeah, it's not the most competitive game, but the return yards that he had in the Pro Bowl and the records, I think they'll live on for quite a while.
A broken leg in the 2012 preseason kept Mariani off the field that year, and 2013. He would eventually land with the Chicago Bears as a receiver in 2015, catching 22 passes for 300 yards. He returned to the Titans in 2016 and retired from football this past spring. He and his wife now run a real estate company in Nashville.
He's a winner. I mean, you can take people that are more talented than this kid, and there was tons of them, and he knows that. But he's a winner, and man, I'd take a winner over more talent any day of the week because some guys just know how to win, and that was his deal. He found ways to win.
The walk-on turned Pro Bowler, Mark Mariani, number 2 on the MT Top 40's look at wide receivers. That means only one remains. Stay tuned on Friday for the best wideouts in Treasure State history. Meanwhile, Mark Mariani, of course, making his living in the National Football League on special teams, and coupled with that, we're looking at the MT Top 40's best kickers and punters in state history. Guys like Josh Roberts out of Malta. Number 4, Libby's Jody Farmer, 1986 grad of the Loggers. One of 4 players to have scored 3 touchdowns in the Shrine game. Number 3, Great Falls High's Dallas Neal, played all over the place for the Mighty Bison, got the scholarship from the University of Montana. Number 2, you remember the name Travis Dorsch of Bozeman, 3-sport standout, first-team All-State honors in football, basketball, and track. And number 1, Helena High's own Dan Carpenter, standout receiver in high school, All-State at kicker-punter for the Helena High Bengals, and then on to the Montana Grizzly. You can read much more about all of your kickers and punters, the MT Top 40's best, at montanasports.com. Richie Melby, MTN Sports.